Hello and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker Hagan, and I'm so excited about my special guest tonight, Anita Hicks. We've had been friends for over 15 years. We've traveled the world together. She's a motivational speaker. She's a coach, a trainer extraordinaire. She has a program where she says, unleash your authentic power. I'm so excited. Anita.
How are you, Dr. Val? It is so good to see you, girl. How are
I
you?
know. You look absolutely fabulous, darling.
Thank you. And so do you. And thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be on your show. This is such an honor. You've been doing the work for a long time. And I appreciate it because you are a master at what you do.
Not really, but I'm trying. I'm leaping and growing wings on the way down. But when I first started doing this, I did it on Blog Talk Radio. And it was so successful. And, I was very comfortable with that because of the fact that nobody could see me and I could talk and everything and have my guests on. And I was so comfortable with that. But then, the rules of engagement changes.
Yeah.
And, I was so successful doing that. I think I was doing it for like 9 years, Blog Talk Radio /Soul Topics. You can see some of the shows there. And I've had over 64,000 shows replayed.
Wow.
That's just how many shows that people just replayed over and over and over again because it was powerful information. So this platform here is new for me, and I'm trying to still feel myself and be open to the public. And so, like I said, I leaped and grew wings on the way down. So I want to be able to provide the greatest information for individuals. And I appreciate you coming on the show because so many people don't know how to live an authentic life. They're so busy trying to live up to other people's expectations they lose themselves. They have no idea who they are or whose they are. Absolutely. So they're constantly trying to fit into the mold and adapt to the crowd that they're with. And I thought it would be so beneficial for the listening audience to be able to listen to somebody who specializes in authenticity.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Val, because you knew me when I first came on the circuit. You were one of the reasons why I came to be a part of Les Brown's group, and you were so welcoming to me. And the message that God gave me was living your authentic life. Now, for me, that message, I'm very passionate about that because I was not living my authentic life. And for those of you that are listening, so let me explain to you what I believe living an authentic life is. It involves embracing your imperfections and being true to who you are. Being true.
Wow.
Just being true. And there's the quote that says, all of us are born unique, but most of us will die copies. And Val, the reason why, and we've heard that quote for years, that all of us are born unique, but most of us will die copies, because it takes work to be true to who you are, to be authentically true and not try to clone yourself and copy off what other people are doing. It's okay to be who you are, but most of us do not have those values, embrace those core values, and we don't do self-reflection and really embrace who we are. So we try to be something to someone that we're not. And I know this month we're talking about relationships, right?
Yes.
We are talking about relationships. We're getting close to Valentine's, and everybody,
my.
You want someone to say be mine. So
Yes.
when you say be mine, or they ask you to be mine, it's all of who you are. Everything is everything.
Good, bad, and ugly.
Good, bad, ugly, all of it, Val. You're absolutely right. So the truth is, if we are not being true to who we are, it's not going to work.
Hmm.
It's not going to work. It will never work. And that's where I found myself. I found myself not being true to who I really was. And I remember very distinctly when I was walking by the television one day when I was home, I was cleaning up my house and I heard Les Brown on on television. And he said, "This is Miss Mamie Brown's baby boy." And I turned around and I was like, did he say what I think he said? Miss Mamie Brown's baby boy? I had never heard that said before.
Yeah, me either.
Exactly. We had never heard that said before. So then he went on to say that you have something great, you have something special within you. And I started listening very closely. And the first thing I started to do, which I want to encourage all of you, is a self-reflection.
Wow.
When that's exactly what I did. That's the first step, Val, is self-reflection on living your authentic life. So I'm going to give you the secret sauce to living your authentic life. So I might not be able to share it all with you, but I'll tell you how you can get in touch with me to get all the rest of the points. But the
Absolutely. They're gonna have to follow you to see, the rest of the point is you're gonna give them a little bit,
just a little taste, a little.
just because when people are introduced to themselves, it's
Mm,
scary. It's scary. So they're walking in fear because of the fact that they don't know if they reveal who they really are, if those people that they're surrounded with will actually like them. We want to be impressionable all the time. We want people to like us and we want to feel good. And when someone throws a dagger at her, we crumple up in a fetal position because we're wounded, we're scarred. So we're afraid of being who we are.
right. Absolutely. That is so true. And the first, it is important, it all starts with us. We cannot expect someone to embrace who we are when we're not being true to who we are.
Mhm.
So, it sounds complicated, but it's really not. It really is putting the work in. And the question becomes, are you willing to put the work in? Are you willing to show your true self and allow other people to see your imperfection? Now, that doesn't mean, Val, and you know this as well as I do, we still have to do some work on ourselves. We are,
Oh, it's a daily process because we're always being introduced and
mhm,
exposed to different things, different people, different surroundings. So we constantly are evolving.
constantly. And that's what we have to remember. But when we realize that we are created in God's image,
Hmm.
now, I don't know about you, which I do. I can almost know about you when we realize that we are, because I know when you minister, girl, you get in there. I've been on the circuit with you. And so when we realize we are made in God's image, that's a powerful statement right there. So now that's who we look up to. We look
Yes.
up to the creator who created us with all of our imperfections, and we're striving to be the best that we can be. So that's where the work comes in.
Hmm.
That's exactly
Wow.
where the work
And
comes
you
in.
know what? One of the things I like about you, Anita, is the fact that you are constantly putting in the work. You're always learning and trying to perfect. You see all those degrees behind you on the wall. Tell the audience a little bit about who you are and the
So
the accomplishments that you've had.
thank you for sharing that. So I started out when I got out of college. I started working for IBM,
Hmm.
and then I got married, and I realized, working for corporate America is not really what I wanted to do. So I quit my job and came home to take care of my young kids, because I had seen my mother do that. My father was an entrepreneur, and that's really who I was at the core, an entrepreneur. So, but one of the things my father taught us is to continue to educate ourselves, to
Mhm.
continue to learn more and to learn to grow. And so, this is what these degrees that you see behind me. This is why I continue to strive. I when I got out of college, I got married, and I was working on my master's at Johns Hopkins. I was so close to finishing, but Val, I was so pregnant. I was so pregnant that degree was no longer a priority for me. It was
Mm.
not a priority. What was a priority for me was my family and working on my relationship. So I dropped out. I was so close, but I didn't. But I knew one day I was going to go back and get that degree, get my master's. And that's what I did. I went back and I got my master's as an adult after I had gone through a divorce. My children were grown. I went back and got my master's, and it
Yes.
didn't stop there, Val. So I knew that I had traveled the circuit with you and with Les Brown. I had hosted his Monday night motivational call, but I knew that I needed to do some other things. I had learned a lot of skills, but I wanted to become a coach, a certified coach. So I got certified through ICF. I studied and got ICF, got a certification to become a coach so that I could really learn the skills to coach individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Then I knew that training was also a part of it. So I went and I got my certification to become a certified trainer. So all of these things align together. And that's why it's not like I'm out here trying to be a doctor or an engineer or something. All of these things line together so that when I
Mm-hmm.
present myself, my authentic self, I have done the work behind it. I'm
Yes.
a keynote speaker, a trainer, and a coach. And I'm continuing, like you say, like you often teach us that we have to continue to grow and learn. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what my journey it's taking me. That's where it's landing me now, and I'm continuing to grow, to be authentic to what my core values are.
That's awesome, Anita. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're doing relationships and stuff going into February months where people are going to be introduced to themselves. Some people are going to have butterflies, and some people are going to have tears because that person that they thought was going to be wooing them is wooing someone else, or there's going to be makeups, breakups, and people being introduced to who they really are,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, is so scary because the expectations of so many people doing Valentine's Day is this it? Is he going to propose? Is she going to say yes? The expectations and excitement and all is there, but are they really wanting that, or just want to be caught up in the festivities of that day?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
when everything simmers and it's time to be real, when real life sets in, the fear overtakes and overpower because they're like, I'm not ready for this. I got caught up in the moment, in the wanting to be a part of this and want to be able to flash my ring and all that. And then when the reality of setting that date comes, then they draw back.
Right. And Val, a lot of times people are not emotionally healed. There's a
Mm,
lot of emotional baggage that people carry. And I'm a single person. And the way that people are dating now, it is dating online. I have dated online. It has not worked for me. So I'm
Nita, I
open.
think you were like the second person to tell me about online dating, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And you kept saying, well, yeah, and you was telling me about you were meeting people because we were building our careers. We were
Mhm.
traveling the world, globally, and we were just so excited about being able to pick up and go when we felt like it. And you were like, well, the date and not be committed. You could just like kind of entertain people, go on and do some online dating. You was like, I did. And I was like, what's that like, Nita? And you were like, just try it, Val. Just try it.
So, and I think that it is good to be, and I'm not saying that I'm still not open to it, because my sister was the one that told me about it. And my first response was, Val, I was like, why would I do that? Why would I date online? And I didn't think so. Then I started dating online, and I did meet some people that were very interesting. But what I found for me, I wanted a committed relationship, and there was a lot of emotional unavailability. People
Mm,
were not emotionally available. I remember one time I met this gentleman, and he said, so I said, tell me a little bit about yourself. So he was telling me he had been in a 6-year relationship, that he just got out of the relationship for 4 months. And I was like, that was a red flag to me, because I was like, have you taken time to work on yourself to heal? So these are things that we have to look at when a person jumps out of one relationship, whether it's you, whether it's the person you're dating or about to date. You have to kind of see if that kind of aligns with what you're trying to do, because you could be a person that is being used for a rebound. i
hmm
know i know i know that for me, it is a must for the person to be emotional available. And we're, girl, everything that's going on in the world right now, all of the mental illness, people are embracing after COVID, all the things that have happened. It's a lot of things that are happening, and we need to be conscious and make sure that when we are, whether we're dating online, whether we're dating someone, that our core values, the values, and we have to identify what they are, identify your core values, that the values of this other person is lining up with your core values as well.
absolutely. And really, Anita, some people don't care.
They
They
don't.
just want a man, they just want a woman. And that goes back to being authentic, defining what your authentic life is, because if you're not being true to who you are and that person you're in a relationship with, it's not going to work.
Absolutely. Val, you are so true, because there were times when I first started dating online, I was just looking for someone to go out with, to have dinner with. I wasn't looking for a committed relationship. So that's where I was, because we were traveling, we were going places. But then as my life changes, everything changes. I'm looking for a committed relationship.
Hmm
So you have to be very clear on what your expectations are, and set boundaries for yourself. Now, if you set boundaries and you let the other person step over those boundaries, it's not their fault, it's your fault.
Right,
So you have
right.
to be clear about those boundaries, being true to who you are, and what your core values are, and those expectations. Once you're clear about that, and you communicate that to the person, communication is key. You got to have open communication. If the person, for me, a distance relationship is nothing that I'm interested in right now. In the past, that was an option. So be very clear when you're dating in a relationship. And if it's not going to work, it's okay. It's not going to work.
It's
But don't,
okay.
yeah, it's okay. It's enough. It's enough people out there, and your ship is going to
but
sail one day.
but that's the thing, Anita, of people are afraid to let go of what they have because they feel nothing else will come along that will be better. And so they don't want to take that risk.
But Val, and you are absolutely right. People don't want to take that
You
risk.
sound like how we used to be when we would be traveling and I'd be trying to explain something to you. You'd be like, yeah, but Val.
So listen, this is a reunion because we're reflecting as well and having a good time because we always have a good time. So people do, they have fear. But if you don't acknowledge what you want and you settle for less, there's no win in that. There is no win in that. You
No
cannot
win.
change a person. Only person you can change is you. Now, if the person is getting what he wants, and that means a lot of things to a lot of people, you all are grown folks, you know what I'm talking about. If they're getting what they want and you're not getting anything in return, and you only see them at 10 o'clock at night, once a week, if that's working for you, let it work for you. But if it's not working for you and it is not aligning with what you want, listen, I'm here to tell you, you got to make some changes. You got to have the courage to step out in faith, because if you don't, what you're doing is you're holding your hand closed and it's not enough room for anything else there. So you want to
Mm.
open up. You want to open up like that flower. You want to open up. Be willing to open up and let go. Let go and let God. I'm
Wow.
enjoying my life. Listen, you and I talk about it all the time. And I've been in dates and on dates and in relationships, and I thought it was close and it wasn't close. But I can honestly say that I'm thankful for all of my experiences, and I'm living my authentic life. I'm enjoying my life, and during COVID, I was able to spend a lot of time by myself to do all these things that we talk about, self-reflecting, work on these certifications. That's when I got those last two certifications during COVID. I was not online trying to date someone because I knew people were just sitting there trying to waste your time, because
Mm.
nobody was coming over my house giving me COVID.
I
So,
have I have my co-host Dr. J, who's going to be joining us, and I'm sure he has some questions for you, especially coming
yes,
from the male perspective.
awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing Dr. J. It's been a while.
Well,
Dr.
hey,
J, how are
well,
you?
well, happy New Year and happy all those great things. I'm doing just well. Boy, I finally got a chance to hear you, and I'm listening to this authentic life talk, and I'm saying, wow, is authentic life the same as being contented life, or is authentic life simply living life on your terms?
Well, it can be a combination of both. You have to define that. So, authentic life, content. So, you can be content because I am content and I am living life on my terms. But there are some people, I remember someone made a statement to me. They were actually in a relationship and they said, well, I'm content, but they weren't happy.
Mm.
Right.
So if you are content and happy, if you're living it on your own terms, so it's not, so basically what it is living your truth, being true to who you are.
Hmm.
And so that means different things to different people. So if is that what it looks like to you, then that's your definition.
Wow. You said some things earlier that I thought was so important. You talked about the fact that when once upon a time there were things that were all right for back then, but you've moved on since that, and those things are no longer all right for you at this space. So, in all actuality, for those that think that life is one big ironclad, it's got to be this, it's got to be this, and it's got to be this now. How do you respond to that? Because in many cases, people don't take in consideration that you do evolve, or at least you should evolve, and sometimes things change in life. So how do you set basically your non-negotiables, or are there any such thing as ironclad non-negotiables anymore?
Well, there can be. There are certainly certain things for me. There are certain things for me, but it's not. If you say things like he has to be 6 feet tall, he has to have a six pack, or he has to have, he has to be a decent human being. He has to have core values, values that make him
Exactly.
or her a decent human being. Now, If you are just, or he has to have wear a suit every day. He can't be a person who works in construction. And my father was in construction, and he was one of the smartest people that I knew. There you have it. So yes, there are things that can be, there are non-negotiables. There are a few that are non-negotiables. I'm not interested in having a relationship with someone who's an atheist.
Right.
You can be an atheist. I have no, peace be with you. That's not an option for me, because I know when I have to get on my knees, I'm going to be on my knees, and I'm going to be calling on the one who created me. So
Mm-hmm.
there are certain things that are non-negotiable, but we have to examine. That's where those boundaries come in. There are certain
Right.
things, and we have to determine that.
Right.
Those are
You
great
know,
questions.
yeah, because I think we live in a day and time, and you guys kind of talked about it just a few minutes ago. There's so many messages that people receive today. People try to emulate what they see. Reality TV is everything but reality, and people try to imitate the non-reality reality TV, and oftentimes have not settled, really who they are or even what they want. So they kind of live life like the drifting of a wind. This looks popular. This sounds good right now, and so I'm not so sure if people are looking for Mr. or Mrs. Right or Mr. or Mrs. Right now. And I think that those are very big questions one must settle in their heart. What does Mr. or Mrs. Right look like? And am I willing to wait for that? Or am I just totally cool with Mr. or Mrs. Right now?
So Mr. and Mrs. Right Now, and that is a great, great point. And Val, you can jump in here. Mr. and Mrs. Right Now, that's not an option for me.
Mhm.
That's not
Mm.
an option for me, because I know that is not a win on any level. I'm not willing to be impatient. I'm not looking for a Mr. Right Now, because I can walk out my house right now just to the trash can and find me a Mr. Right Now.
Absolutely.
And I did say the trash can.
I got that one. Absolutely.
so,
Wow.
so listen, we have to be patient. And we have to trust God. Some of you, we're having fun. These are grown folks' conversations. We're all Christians on here, but we are having a grown folks' conversation. We're talking
Absolutely.
about relationships. We're talking about being authentic. You have wisdom on this line right here. You
Absolutely.
have wisdom. And even though several things may have been acceptable in the past, there were still boundaries. So
Mhm.
we all have to have boundaries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they're so reckless in what those boundaries are, and they don't take into consideration that partner that they're dealing with, and it becomes a hurt situation instead of a love situation. And they wind up wasting each other's time because of the fact that it's no longer authentic.
Absolutely. When I
And
was,
that right now really doesn't matter when someone is a certain age, Nita, and they be like, hey, I don't know if another one is coming my way, so I better just settle for right now. But then their eyes are always looking, their heart is always roaming. So they're never going to be settled or content in that relationship simply because it's not who they really wanted. They wasn't living an authentic lifestyle or in an authentic relationship. It was something that was forged.
that is so true. And
So
you have a lot of noise. When you're not in that space where you are meditating and in relationship with God, because I'm saying, well, some of you may be Christians on here, some of you may not, but if you don't have a relationship with God, whether you do that through meditation, whether you do it through your prayer, however you do it, God can speak to you. And if you don't have that relationship with God, and you just jump out there and just settle for anything, it's not going to work. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone at this age. I don't care how old you are, children out of the mouth of babes. We can all hear from God. We can all hear from God. So being true to who you are and being authentic takes work. I remember, Val, we were on a call when I was doing the Les Brown Monday night motivational call. So I was talking. I was the someone Stacy or somebody was interviewing me, and I made a comment. I said I lost myself in the relationship. So the lady on the call that was on there, she said, "No, you didn't lose yourself in a relationship." I was like, "Let's rewind for a minute here. I was the one in the relationship, and I did lose myself because I gave myself. I mean, I'm not blaming anyone. I didn't have clear boundaries set.
Right.
I was going on my strength. I was accepting things that I should not have self accepted. Does it make me a bad person? No, it doesn't. But what happened was my eyes were open because of
Right.
my fellowship with God and knowing that this is not aligning with who I am. So therefore, I had to make certain decisions. And when you're aligned, you are going to make decisions based on that alignment. But if you align to nothing, that's what your decisions are going to be based on.
You know, those things are so important. And the more I think of the word authentic, I think about what are some of those
Dr. J, I think I lost you.
He just froze for a second. He was getting good too. Oh
But
wow.
but one of the things is, when we're trying to be in alignment with other individuals so that we can what we call match. We always want to say we match with someone, but then in reality, it's not us matching with individuals at all. It's basically us settling and hoping that that person will live up to the expectations of what I envision it to be.
Yes, exactly. And it's nothing wrong with having faith in an individual. It's nothing wrong with that. And we're we're not saying that you shouldn't have faith in an individual. But when you look at what your goals are and the things the boundaries that you have, if you just settle for anything, you will get anything. So miss right now, like Dr. J said, are you waiting for the right person, or are you wanting Mr. Right now? That's what
Mm,
gets us in trouble.
always. Always. I know we've had, like I said, we've been on a journey together, Anita. I don't be playing.
No, girl, no, no, she don't play, y'all. She don't play. She don't play.
If I'm not in it, I'm not in it.
Absolutely. And
When
that's
it
how we
comes
have to
down to
be.
business and relationships, I'm not going to be fake about it. I'm going to say what it is, and let the chips fall where they were. Because listen, I was a victim of domestic violence for
Yes.
19 years. My voice was taken away. My life was taken away from me,
Hmm.
and I refused to settle.
Yes.
When I walked down the aisle for the second time, I was 55, turning 56, and it was okay. I
Yes,
still had
absolutely.
everything. I still had all my faculties working.
And still looking good, girl. Still looking
So,
fabulous.
and I have friends that, got married at 63, 64, and they're happy and excited. So those of you that are talking about, hey, I'm not going to find nobody because I'm at this certain age, it's not that, it's the connection, and you can't have that connection if you're not living an authentic life. When a person sees you and let them see the real you, you will give them the opportunity to say, hey, that's what I want,
Hmm.
that's who I want to spend the rest of my life with. I don't care if their teeth are falling out, their
Right.
hair falling out, they gain weight, because guess what, all that's going to happen
All of it.
along the process of the relationship. If you stay together at a certain age, all that's going to happen. So you
Absolutely.
may as well live authentically now, so that when you come together, that person is in love with that real you, that
Right.
authentic you. And first of all, you're supposed to love the person from the inside out, not from the
Come on
outside
now.
in.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's one thing, and that's one of the problems that people have. They looking at, oh man, I don't, my girlfriend say he don't look all that. He's nice, but he don't look all that. And then you're like, girl, she's so fat and he's so fat, and they
Mhm.
looking at all that and put these little things in your ears, and you miss your opportunity.
Yes, you missed
You
the
miss your
opportunity.
opportunity, and you say, well, I have the right to be picky. It's my life. I want to be picky. But are you being picky for yourself, or are you being picky for somebody else?
Mm, that is so true. That is so true. And you're right. We can certain things we can say is non-negotiable. Is nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that.
Yeah,
But
I don't want nobody with no teeth. That's that's not, somebody that take their
Val,
teeth out and
Val,
it's like
listen.
it's
They right
non-negotiable. They got to
now
be
they
examined.
have these things where they can get the inserts or whatever they we're just listen, we're cutting up over here, Dr. J.
You all are just going off today. Let's talk about the
I am
Netflix.
so thankful that my king, my Mr. Alex Hagan,
Yes,
I'm telling you, I love him from the core.
that is a
That is my king.
blessing.
I love him too for the core, and he loves every bit of me, crazy and all.
Life change and life should
Yes.
mature us and experience should, mature us. And yet it's still, I do think that at some point in time, there is this process of healing that we need to have within ourselves.
Mm,
Sometimes even healing from regret. Healing
yes.
from regret, the one that got away, or the one that really broke my heart, or the one I really wanted. And some people will spend the rest of their lives chasing the ghosts of what could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And when they chase the ghosts of what could have been, they oftentimes will miss out on the real person that is there now. And
Mm.
so if I'm living my life, let's be honest, I don't see things today as I did when I was 21. Of
Yes.
course not. Life has taught me different. Experiences have taught me different. I've understood those things that are substantive versus those things are just symbolisms. And I think that's what maturity does. And I think that once again, at the end of the day, most love songs say it's things like, you are so beautiful to me. It never says you are so beautiful to them. But yet
That's
it's
right.
still we live it as if we have to have the public approval of other people in order to authenticate or in order to confirm. Listen, one of the things that are the mysteries that we often miss is that many people will plan for a wedding, but very few plan for marriage. What do
Mm.
they imagine? They imagine a ceremony, they imagine the dress, they imagine all the pomp and the circumstances, and that is the public witnessing of your joining. What we don't understand, that's the public witnessing your joining, but you have to live your marriage.
That's right.
The public is not inside of that. It's very much similar to what I call grieving and mourning. Grieving is an internal process where I'm grieving, I'm reflecting, I'm dealing with loss and adjusting. Mourning is that public thing where folks come to the funeral to mourn with me. But isn't it interesting? After the event is over with and those things, those people go back to their separate place
That's
and I'm
right.
left to deal with
That's right.
myself. And I
Yes.
think that ultimately we have to look at, let me deal with myself. And that's on all fronts, because what I was saying before we got disconnected is that if we're not healed, we could very well find ourselves, though we want to be in a relationship, we have to be careful that we don't enter in still wounded and oftentimes go on what I call the preempted strike.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let anybody do this to me no more. And we end up changing the core of who we are because we're trying to be preemptive with somebody because of something that happened to us before. So all of those things are important. In many ways, we can miss out simply because, once again, we're chasing the ghosts of yesterday.
Absolutely. And when because I had mentioned earlier before about emotional availability. So that's one of the things that is non-negotiable for me because we have to be healed. Now, that I know that I'm healed. But if a person has been in a 15 or 20-year relationship and they're dating 1 month later, are they really healed? And it's not for me to determine, but I
Right.
have to look at the signs. When I'm looking at the signs and they're constantly blaming this person or blaming this person, I did it when I went through my divorce, but I don't do it now. I wish my ex the best. I want him to have the best life because he is the father of my 2 sons. And I want him to have the best life. I'm not a part of that equation, but I want him to, and I pray for him. There was a time when I could not pray for him. But I pray for him because, again, that is the father of my sons. So that's the sign to say that I am healed. I don't have any emotional baggage from that relationship. It's been 20 years now, but there are some people, it can be 20, 30, 40, and they never took the time. Why? Because they went from relationship to relationship to relationship. So for those of us that are out there that are dating, we have to listen for those signs. We have to listen. We have to pay attention, because if you don't, it's your fault.
Right, because if you continue dating them and having conversation to know more about, and then that's another thing, people don't ask the right questions. And and the more they learn about individuals, then they will be able to see and know if they're healed from a situation. I remember when I met my husband, it had been like 15 years, no, no, about 17, yeah, 17 years, 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had been divorced, but I took time because I was married for 19 years and I had to pull back the layers. I
Yes.
was raising my children. Then I started traveling the world with the greatest motivational speaker in the world, the legend himself, Mr. Les Brown. And I was living my best life, put my kids through college and everything. So I was I was happy, I was content
Yeah.
because I discovered who I was in the process. While I was doing all of that, I was awakened, as I said, because I was living in with dead bones,
Yeah.
as they would say. So it is very important to process whatever trauma you went through, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a loss of life. You have to take time to process
Mm,
and ask yourself these questions. Who am I?
yes.
What do I like? Because when you're married, you succumb to that partner, whatever it is he likes, and vice versa. It doesn't go lopsided, it's supposed to go vice versa. And so you adapt to accommodate, not because you're settling, but because you authentically love that person and you
Right.
want things to work. So that's where love comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
if you're in a situation where you're trying to make things happen or trying to make things work, and hopefully we can fall in love and hopefully things will work out, maybe down the road, it's not going to happen,
No.
because guess what, that person is going to change outwardly. If you're not liking who they are inwardly, you're definitely not going to like who they become outwardly, because you get married, you both get fat from cooking and eating out.
Except and
I
COVID.
haven't seen not one couple that hasn't gained weight after they got married.
Absolutely. That's
But
and
then
it's
you
nothing
work
wrong with
on it together, and then you go on a diet and you get back to self. But it's just like a release, because they feel that, wow, I'm with somebody that really loves me, really care about me. So they kind of exhale, they take a pause, and they're not trying to keep up this image.
it.
They 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 want to live real life. And a lot of times that's not what's really going on when you're settling.
Absolutely. Powerful points.
Yeah, once again, going back to, and I think the key word once again is, defining what's your authentic life and what that is. And if we had to define it, it is a state of being real, being genuine, you
Mhm.
know, not being something or someone else for the sake of being something or someone else. And
Mhm.
that goes back to what you're saying. Even when you access, when you're in a relationship, I think one of the things we have to be very careful too is that the communication cannot be one-sided, and
No.
here's the reason. If you find yourself divulging everything about you, divulging why, every reason why this didn't work before and what they didn't have and what I really wanted, and look there, you have to be careful, because a person could be a great note taker,
Yes.
and so they're taking notes on all the things that you say that you want and wish you had, and then they try to morph, and either that morphing into that could be real, or it could be one in which they are simply trying to be what you say that you want, but that means they're not being their authentic self. And so what are you dealing with now? A person said, well, I'm just doing this because that's what you wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell you something, it is always the tensions and the adversity in life that will cause that to rise to the top, and you will discover whether or not this person was just basically being a chameleon in order to fit into what you said, or is this really who they are core? And it
Absolutely.
doesn't mean that people can't change authentically. But what I'm saying is that in order for a person to really change authentically, they have to have a desire to. I want to change. I want to be a better person. I know that makes me better. That provokes me to be better. But if I'm only situationally changing because
Mm-hmm.
I want to be
Get
able
you
to
on the hook.
you so I can hook you in, then that is called manipulation.
And
That is
that's,
called
yes, yeah.
that's what that's called, and we have to be very careful about that because the fact you're thinking that you have the person of your dreams, but in all actuality, you have the person who's basically of your scheme. They are scheming to be what you said that you want.
A
Absolutely.
chameleon. They're a
Absolutely.
chameleon.
So that's why it's
So Anita,
important. Yes. Go ahead, Val.
Anita, you have something you want to share with the audience. You have a
An event?
program that you have that you're going to
Yes.
offer an event.
Yes, I do. So, I first of all, this has been a great conversation, and I hope we can continue it again. And hopefully, people have gotten some nuggets. I do training of trainings. I have a free webinar coming up tomorrow. It's called "Pitch Your Message: How to Be a Great Speaker." It is a free webinar, and then we have a 3-day challenge that's coming up. And oftentimes when people are everyone has a message. I believe we all have a message, whether you are a
Absolutely.
leader or whether you're in corporate America and you need to speak to your team. You need to be able to present your message. So if for those of you that would like to join me tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time, if you go to my Facebook page, Anita Hicks Unlimited, and you can also go to my LinkedIn page, Anita Hicks Unlimited. And I am on Instagram. I am Anita Hicks. That's ANITA HICKS. And you can also go to my website. It's right here, AnitaHicks.com. So connect with me if you need coaching to unpack some of these issues that we talk about: core values, self-reflection, boundaries, communication. I can assist you there. So reach out to me if you just need a 15-minute chat, a 15-minute consultation. I can do that. You can go on my website and connect with me there. But this has been a great opportunity to reconnect with my very good friend, Dr. Val and Dr. J. It has been awesome. So thank you, Dr. Val. We talked about a lot. We talked about a lot. So hopefully the listeners have gotten something, at least one thing they can take away.
Absolutely. I'm sure they have an awful lot of things that they can take away and utilize it so that they can go to the next level. And that's what Hot Topics from the Soul is.
Yeah.
It is to revitalize individuals to live their authentic life. And, we give information to empower and inspire individuals. And I thank you, Anita, for coming on and doing that because I know some people listening have had aha moments that said, and then they're going to reevaluate individuals and they're with not necessarily love relationships, but business, professional relationships. You
Yes.
got to see who's with you and who's not with you. And for you to be empowered to go to the next level to help you walk out your purpose.
Amen. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Well, this has absolutely been powerful. It's so great seeing you again, Anita. And, it's great to continue to see you going through the open doors, and yet it's still empowering people along the way.
Amen.
There's so much that we can unpack from the night. And then we understand that our authenticity also impacts the way people treat us. And I think that's
Mm.
one of the things I take from it is that we have to consider the fact that when we don't set boundaries or adhere to those boundaries, then guess what? We can't really blame the other person. We have to take some responsibilities for who we are. we've long heard the saying that you teach others how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was Winston Churchill that says that we teach what we know, but we reproduce what we are.
Mm.
We have to really look very deeply into even our orientation of our own thinking. Are we reproducing what we are? And
Mm.
and that's going to have to be something that you dig and that you reflect on each and every day. Because when we move those boundaries, we must understand that we either are compensating or we're overcompensating. We're compensating something, that meaning that we're giving up something, we're compromising something, or we are definitely losing something inside of it. So tonight has been great. I know there's some great pointers that people will take away and they will apply not only in their, relationship far as inside of a relationship with each other, but as you said, business wise and
Mm-hmm.
even on the job. I mean, these things are very important in terms of even what you give out, my output. Are you feeling me? Am I overextending myself? When are you going to also deposit it? And when are you going to contribute to this thing as well? And that is so very important. So I want to thank you because I think that this has been quite fruitful and quite substantive.
All
Yes,
right.
thank you.
Yes, this has been a delightful show. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. And remember that you must live your authentic life. If this show has blessed you, I invite you and encourage you to share it and have individuals subscribe to our YouTube channel at Hot Topics from the Soul. Good night and God bless.
Good night.